Rogue.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna be it for the decks, I believe. Okay, yeah, nothing left. But yeah, definitely check that out, guys. Just a definitely good guide, and for folks, looking for some decks too that aren't, looking that are, finished reading, completely reading the Tempest Storm meta report, and looking for some more stuff to read. All right, next up, let's talk about ladder change wish list. Yes. So Ben Bro, just at least on Reddit, or Ben mentioned on the was it the forums, or I forget exactly where, but he basically was asked if, or there was some mention of just the ladder, and the ladder needing some changes, or somebody wishing that there would be some changes. And Ben mentioned that they are taking a look at the ladder. It was a really short answer. It was like one or two sentences, so he didn't give us any details. But I figured it would be a good discussion to talk about what we would like to see with the ladders, given that we have professional players here that where the ladder plays a big role in it, and as well as me and Noxious who like to chill out in the non-legend ranks or whatnot.
Oh, I barely play. I mostly play like
Exactly.
I co-op play with people and like on Skype or something.
Yeah, but it's definitely a
It's a
different
lot more fun
experience,
that
right?
way.
Yeah, the ladder's a different
Yeah.
experience in that versus the legend ladder. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on the current ladder? I guess we should just start there. Like, how do you feel about the current ladder? Cydonia, let's start with you.
I feel it's still pretty good, but like there's a few things that feel really bad about it. One of them is always going down so low when the season ends, so you have
Mhm.
like a week or two of playing like weaker players or just trying to climb your way to where you were previously.
Mhm.
So I think that could be addressed maybe. And the other thing that feels bad is at the end of the month, where it feels like the last 2 or 3 games you will play are way more important than the previous 100 games or 200 games you played before. And the whole MMR is really structured in a way that it's like, what have you done for me lately? But being consistent is not really rewarded. It's mostly getting a win streak at the right time. And the last thing is that since the MMR, like in Legend ranks, is hidden, sometimes you have no idea if you're gonna lose like a ton of points if you a ton of ranks if you lose a game, or if you're still pretty close to like
Mhm.
having the rank you want. So I felt that could be a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, especially the whole the last 3 games are basically all that matters for your placements for HTC points. Like you could play well all season and then just bad luck in your last 3 games. Looks like you don't get top 100 or whatever, or top 10 if that's what you're going for. So
Mhm.
like that feels pretty crummy a lot of times, especially when towards the end people would be at like rank 20, and if you lose at rank 20 trying to push for top 10, you just drop out of top 100 sometimes. And it's just like
Well,
one game at the end is determining your entire placements between all of the points there at the end, which just seems absolutely silly. It's just rewarding luck more so than rewarding consistency.
how
And
much? I guess so. How much of it is that, like your dislike for it, is more to do with the HCT format? Them rewarding with points given, like top 100 or whatnot, versus the actual ladder itself.
well,
So you mean like if they were to give players
Yeah,
no
let's just
points
say
at all and
let's just say
simply
they give
play
top.
tournaments for
Yeah, let's just say
HCT?
they give top 500 points. Would it affect you as much just feeling the drop? Like having just a few matches, deciding whether you're
well,
ranked
it
really high or
wouldn't.
not.
There's no meaning of being ranked really high if there's no points. So I guess I wouldn't feel anything. The system would still be
Yeah.
crummy. I wouldn't feel anything about it though. So I think
Okay,
that
okay, no, that answers it.
this if I, when I'm looking at the ladder as a whole, I just automatically incorporate HTC points into that.
Sure.
Okay,
Like I think it's
sure.
all one system that works together, really.
Okay.
So I think they could make just either end of the system to try and improve it a little bit. But I really dislike the fact that the last 5 games you play determine your placement. Like I don't think it should be that way. I think there should be some ability to sit on your rank, or some ability to reward consistency more in there. And also, I don't really like. What was I going to say? I totally forgot because you got me talking about the whole.
Yeah.
Gosh
MMR.
darn it. I think it's fine that you can't see that. Like, I don't care about knowing how many points I'm going to lose. I know I'm pretty much screwed either way if I lose. So,
Yeah.
it's just, if I always
Yeah.
win, I don't have to worry about losing
Yeah.
points. So I think it's fine if they conceal that.
So here's a
But,
question. Like for
oh,
you,
one thing,
go ahead.
though. I think they should, narrow the MMR gap that you queue into,
Right.
because
Oh yeah.
oftentimes,
Yeah.
like, you'll be at like 50 legend, you'll queue versus the guy at 5k, and he'll be playing some dumb face deck and just meme you by turn 4. And then it's like, well, rip your season.
I'm done for the season.
Exactly.
That's
You have
it.
so much more to
Yeah.
lose than gain in that scenario. Yeah. Noxious?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the question because, like, I was gonna mention exactly that. Like, do you think the gap in MMR should be a bit smaller? And as a result of that, like, if they ever implement a closer MMR gap, it's a trade-off, right? Because if you do that, then suddenly the queues are longer, and then even though that might not matter for the common of mortals who are sitting at rank 15, which is like the bulk
They
of the.
could adjust it though. They could adjust it for the like. If you're at rank 15, obviously it doesn't matter the MMR.
No,
gaps.
that's what I'm
Have the
saying.
MMR
Like,
be
it doesn't
huge
matter for
there.
those. Like, at that stage for them, it doesn't really matter. And that's the thing. Like, the trade-off that you usually encounter when you're trying to tweak those MMR systems is the queue times get a lot longer if you're trying to narrow that gap. And as a result of that, it sucks for the quote-unquote casual player who queues into the exact same people as the top-tier players. But given the fact that the legend, like at the top of the legend, usually ends up being, a lot of players who typically have similar MMR. The queue times might be longer, but they're embarking on a grind. And I think they'll all have the equal chance of getting those games in by the end of the season.
I don't think anyone's going to mind like 5 or 10 second longer queue times.
It might be a lot longer than that, though. If they
I
depending
don't
on
think they
how
would mind that either.
narrow they do the parameters. But
Okay.
like the question I've got as well is, what about you just get points as you win during the season, or is that too much, like putting too much emphasis on volume and not enough on win rate?
What do you mean? Like,
Like,
just
I think,
if wins
I would. I
reward
think
you in
that puts
points.
I
Too
think
much
that-
emphasis on volume.
that's the opposite of what we want. We want to
Right,
reward
exactly.
consistency rather than grinding a lot of times. I think
Yeah.
one of the main focuses of the system thus far has been just rewarding players that grind the most. That's why you can enter in as many tournaments as you want and do all this work, and that's great. You should definitely reward people for hard work. I just think they maybe overdid it a little bit, because now I don't have time to grind all of this stuff while I'm doing all of my other obligations. So then I start running behind on things, because the most important thing is just a volume of tournaments and a volume of ladder games. And when you got other stuff to do, it makes it really hard to compete.
All right, so we kind of threw out a bunch of little things there. So why don't we focus on just certain aspects of the current ladder, and then just see if we should change it or not. So Cydonia, you mentioned the whole just starting at rank 15 or 14, basically every season, and forcing the grind. Like, everybody has to grind. Even the number 1 ranked legend player has to go back and grind back up to legend. All right, so should this continue? Like, do you guys think that this resetting thing and just having to get back to legend is a good thing? Cydonia,
No.
It sounds like it's not a good thing for you.
Well, it's not that I feel like it's a grind, because it's not
It's
even
not a grind
that
for
long.
you, of course. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, to get legend, but
Yeah.
it's just the fact that the first 100 games you play in the month are gonna be against like a different meta than you're used to. So all the decks you try is just not gonna be meaningful for your testing.
Mhm.
That's the biggest problem I have with it. But it can still be fun. I get to try new decks and like not take it as seriously. But it's just like something you have to do every month that doesn't contribute to make you better or.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Firebat, it sounds
Yeah.
like your schedule. You didn't have to. You didn't have to go from 15 to 1. That would probably make your life a lot easier.
Yeah, it would open up a lot more time to do other things. And also, it's meaningless, right? It doesn't help
It's
anybody at all. So
completely
I think one of the
useless, yeah.
things they could be doing is, like, after you hit legend, maybe you unlock like tournament ladder or something,
Yep.
and then you have like that you could do, or maybe you just start at, because I don't think starting at legend every season is would be great once you make it to legend, because there's
Well,
some
so-
people that like spend all month and just try and make it to legend at the end, and they finally make it, and then they probably don't want to be just getting smashed in legend.
Well, I feel you could start at maybe rank 5, since everyone that plays a
Sure.
certain amount of game will always get to rank 5, basically. So
Do you?
Yeah.
it just removes everything. It removes
In
what
between.
people perceive as a grind and leaves the part where like winning and losing matters.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would like that. I think that's a good fix for it. But I also think that, like, they created conquest format, right, to make tournaments more like ladder. Why
Yeah.
can't we make ladder more like tournament?
Right.
That's right.
Like, why can't we have a tournament mode in the ladder, so you do like best of 3s or best of 5s on ladder? That'll, one, cause the more consistent players to be more successful on ladder, and alleviate a lot
I
of
mean,
problems. I think.
there's been so much talk of tournament on this podcast. At this stage, I feel like we're beating like a rotten horse, dude. Like it's just beyond dead
Well,
at
I
this
mean,
stage.
if we were to do, we
I
can't
wanna-
do best of 3 on ladder though. That would take forever, dude.
No,
Like,
it's fine
And
because
for
like
people that want to compete,
right,
they
it
don't
needs to
care.
happen. It needs to
Like the people that want to compete aren't the people sitting around on their
Right.
phones having a jolly good time. The people that want to compete want to play best of fives, best of threes. They want to actually play the game and have the most chance that their skill matters.
Because like
That's what would make them feel great. Like I don't feel great playing best of ones all day, but if I was playing best of fives all day and I'm like, I can actually outplay these people, I can build a lineup, I can think and use my brain and win, then I'm going to get a lot less tilted when things are decided by 50-50 flips, because it's going to happen less often that they're decided by 50-50 flips, because then I can be like, well, I just still have my counter deck, I have my lineup that makes sense, and I can follow through with my plan, and there's going to be more influence on skill based on that.
Right. I mean, you'll still run really bad sometimes, but the issue with the current system is that, like, you can't. Again, I've mentioned that before, but like, it's not. People compare Hearthstone to poker all the time, but I can't fold my fucking hand in Hearthstone. I have to play that best of one, and so much is on the line for competitive players, right? And I feel like they've got it right, the whole conquest idea for tournament systems, if that's what they want to mimic ladder with. But the issue is, like, if Hearthstone is meant as a casual game you're supposed to play while you're taking a shit, then that's fine. No, but like if that's how they, people perceive it, then that's fine for them. But if there's going to be a competitive scene with people who actually like spend hours and hours and hours every single day practicing and building perfect lineups for tournament systems, the fact that you have to get like an external setup to do that is just mind-boggling. Like I don't.
Yeah.
There's so much that you have to do as an organizer, for instance, beyond even tournament organization, as a player to practice to get ready. Like there's so much you have to work on that's not even embedded into it. So like practicing against like best of threes or best of fives or best of sevens within the client would give you the ability to have a play testing session without necessarily relying on like a scheduled play testing against specific players.
Like you don't need to set up a time to like play with your friends or whatever. You can just go into the game, press the tournament ladder, and test your lineup. And that's going to cause definitely like there's going to be a more diverse tournament meta, I imagine, because people are going to figure things out faster. Things are going to be just
no, I think that's a good idea.
And
I mean, I think that's a great idea, because right now, like if we had the ladder just currently as it is, and we took away, I guess, the grinding up to ladder or just the playing through the the lower ranks up to legend, I feel like you guys would just get bored. Like you guys started in legend. I mean, there's no incentive.
Like they're already bored.
I mean, there's no incentive. You're already bored after a week, anyways, right? Or 2 weeks.
It doesn't matter like that, because the thing, what makes it boring is that it's coin flips all the way through. Like, do you queue into a good matchup or do you not? By like against each individual.
That's pretty much what it is too. Yeah, like the most important thing about ladder is your last 10 games. If you get good matchups in those, you're gonna finish top 10. Like. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Well, they could give incentives too, like throughout the season, for being
like what?
I don't know. I don't know exactly what the incentives are, but I mean, maybe there's a weekly tournaments that you can only play in these tournaments if you're top 100 every week, like each week or something like that. So I mean, I'm just talking about what they currently have, and to have just to make the ladder just meaningful. Now, this whole other tournament thing that you're talking about would be great. It's just we know that's not going to happen very easily, like from the standpoint of design team. But even what we currently have, if you just give you have to give incentives for them to play at Legend. So therefore, if they started in Legend, that's fine, right? But
they have incentive points. It's like the points are already there. They have every single reason to want to get to the top. If you're like saying making every single match during the season matter more, then the whole like gated tournament system is all right. But you still don't address the problem of the ladder system defining your ability to enter those tournaments, which then give you points. Because getting to that top 100 is just going to be every single week. You have those last 3 games that matter the most.
Sure.
Like,
and that's
the problem.
Okay.
Like.
Okay, so that leads to the next thing, which is basically you're just like kind of this MMR like jumping in and stuff.
Exactly.
First off, I want to bring up just MMR transparency first, because we're seeing a lot of other Blizzard games literally just showing MMR, right? Like SC2 is doing it now. Like for the longest time, man, it was completely a black box, or at least they would never show the MMR, and you would just be holding your breath whether you get promoted or not. Now they're actually showing it. Heroes of the Storm shows it now. And I think we're getting to the point, Hearthstone's been kind of like semi-showing it, you know what I mean? Because the rankings are actually true. It's just we don't actually see the number itself. My opinion is I feel like we should see it. Like at least in the ladder ranks, just show us the MMR. Like everything outside of ladder, you can keep it the same. It's fine. You know, like I think all the players that are not like the highest of tier still doing the same kind of ranking system is cool. But I feel like once you get to that top legend, like we want to see how many points we gain and we lose and really know the effects of it. That way we can even give better feedback as to what we want to see.
Here's another problem as well with MMR narrowing, right? And that's happening in just about every game that had it. Win trading.
Yeah.
If you can narrow,
true.
like it already happens in Hearthstone, and the MMR gap is like super fucking huge. So when you look at the narrowing of MMR as something you want to implement, again, it's a trade-off. Like the time that you wait for a queue, that's one thing, but there's also the whole integrity of the competitive system that has to be taken into account. And
there are fail safes in place now, right? I mean, yeah, we've gone through win trading.
It seems like there are. It seems like there are. Now, whether there's a lot of false positives is another story. I don't know. I'm assuming there's less than there are like real, people being caught when trading. So if you put your faith in the failsafe, then yeah, like I think it would be a good idea to narrow the MMR gap.
There's still like a lot of issues right now with win trading, and then there's issues with people like stream sniping. Like people that stream Freeze Mage experience this problem a lot. Because I watch a lot of Hearthstone streams. When I see someone, if you just chart the amount of time someone that streams Freeze Mage plays against the same exact person playing Control Warrior, it'll kind of blow your mind. Like I've watched some like Laughing playing Freeze Mage, for example. I'll watch him play, a couple hours or whatever, and he'll verse the same Control Warrior guy like 5 times. He'll be the only guy on ladder playing Control Warrior.
That is brutal.
That sort of stuff happens a lot still, and it's usually people that are camping at like rank 50 legend, and then they just wait until there's a Freeze Mage streamer, then queue Control Warrior into that guy, get their free win, and then just wait until there's another Freeze Mage streamer, and they just repeat that process. So it's something that I've noticed that's happened before. I don't know how you stop that unless you just put a delay on your stream, I guess, would stop that.
You still get Q sniped, even just having someone on your friends list, right? Like you can definitely not stream snipe, but just Q snipe.
Yeah.
The biggest
Q dodging is very common. Like Q dodging.
That's pretty dank if you're Q sniping people on your friends list. Right?
Well, what the game should not really tell you that somebody's queuing. But dude, like it shouldn't say somebody is searching for a game.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that.
Yeah, I have no fucking like opening pass in an arena, fine. But like searching for a game, that's legitimately like the stupidest thing in the world.
Yeah.
For Q dodging and win trading.
Another thing that's really kind of crummy about the system is the thing that everyone does with their last game called free rolling. Yeah. So basically what everyone does is they wait until there's 10 minutes left on the season, and then wherever they're at the rank, they queue up, and they queue up with usually Control Warrior or Cthulhu Warrior or something like that. And then if they start losing the game, they just keep armoring and roping out the entire turn, every single turn. And then if they're winning, they try and end the game as fast as possible, get their win, and then they get there from 20 or whatever to top 10. And oftentimes, if they lose, it works. Like they can armor out, and they can make sure that even if they're losing the game, they lose after the time has ended.
Yep.
The time should just count that game. It should count the last game. It should
always count the game
you play. That you start before.
Yeah, if it started before, it should count it, but it doesn't. So people abuse that system every single time and just screw people out of their placements all the time and try and sure up theirs. So I've had that happen too. They'll queue into people that are at like 110 or whatever, that are like, all right, I need my last win to make it into top 100. And then they verse some guy that just ropes them out every game, and they just miss their opportunity to even get into top 100 because they couldn't play the game.
Right.
And the thing about that, it's like a lose-lose situation. Mm-hmm. Like last month, I was in the top 100, and I didn't even queue that last game because I felt if I was going to lose, I would have to rope, and then you look bad, and people make a post about you on Reddit or whatever. And if you lose, it's bad, and if you're going to win, your opponent's going to rope you anyway. Yeah. So it's not even worth playing that last game. That's how I felt about it. And I wanted to ask you guys a question, because as we were saying, we want to reward consistency and still limit the grind at the same time. So how many games per month would be meaningful? Because maybe you could make a system where you could decide if you wanted to play like games that count or games that don't count for your end of month ranking, and you would have to play, say, 200 or 250 games that would count, and maybe make a way that out of those games that count, maybe the MMR gap would be more narrow, but you would not be allowed to play the same person twice to reduce like win trading or things
that's
like
like-
an interesting.
Like
system.
and
And,
that's the thing, right? It goes
but,
back to the tournament
yeah.
system, where you have like casual tournaments and the ones that could be quote unquote competitive, right? That's the goal of their casual queue, basically, is having a place where you can play decks and not get ranked on it. The issue is, like, casual is literally not a good place to practice, which is, it's kind of always been that way. So if you want to play Hearthstone and not be ranked for it, it exists. It's just not a place you can play your real decks for any type of meaningful experience.
But Cydonia, you're suggesting like a limited amount of basically quality, right? Like saying like in 300 games, like all of us only have chance to play 300 games that are considered rank, and based on how we do in those 300 games, based on how we do with those 300 games, then that's what the ranking is. That's an interesting way. Yeah, that's I don't know.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that would be. It's just a completely different ranking system, and if you couldn't play the same player twice, then that would be pretty cool. It would just depend on how you match people up. Like there has to be some kind of variance or range that an opponent is like a viable opponent is given to you, right? Like it can't be just like you're playing a bunch of scrubs, right, for those 300 games.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's a cool system.
I like the idea.
Yeah,
I think it's been suggested before. Like we mentioned, having like a narrow, like you take a certain set of games. Maybe Reyna was on, but we discussed like having a certain amount of games that count and the rest kind of don't. But like I guess if you want to put more volume to increase quote unquote your win rate, then you really don't have the opportunity to. And like from a pure ranking perspective, like what's the number where variance is accounted for and suddenly your win rate is meaningful? Like that's the question that you have to ask.
Well,
But,
so
with a game like Hearthstone, that's going to be a big number.
Yeah, it's going to be like
Exactly,
2,000. Right? From my perspective, I'm like, play 2 games in a season, just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
At this stage, you might as well not do it. But yeah, I like the concept of restricting. Like, it's kind of like adding tournaments, right? Where if you play in tournaments, then those matter. And then the ladder or whatever other system you've got as a side project doesn't as much. So it's like restricting where the points are acquired as opposed to it being this Wild West thing where so much emphasis is being put on the last minutes.
I feel the reason like they make it so that only your last 20 or 25 games matter is because like if someone loses 20 or 30 games with a deck they were trying in the middle of the season and get down too low, there's no way they're gonna get back up. But now with the system how it is, you can just get a good win streak and then get back up no matter how far you are. If it's still like the middle or 2/3 of the season, and it doesn't ever encourage someone to just stop playing and wait till the next season. Which another system that rewards consistency, well, it would encourage not playing.
Yeah. Also, other games have implemented like timed leagues, like sort of things like Path of Exile, for example, will have like league events that'll happen like. And they'll be like a day long or like an hour long or it's sometimes like 7 days long, so maybe we could have like a ladder thing that's like only a week long or whatever, so there'd be like the ladder week, and so like that the nothing really counts for the points until you get into these events, which then count for points. So like the last 7 days of the month or whatever is when actually you can start earning MMR towards those points.
Yeah, I mean the infrastructure is kind of there in the way that they have Tavern Brawl set up, where it's only open a certain amount of time. So like the idea of having a mode open for like a narrow amount of time per week is already there. It's just a matter of them implementing the whole like a competitive system into it, like the MMR calculation, the point gain, the placement, how many of them can you play, how do you like that's a big deal.
I feel like
I'm still just biggest fan of just having tournaments.
Yeah, dude. Like, I just want tournaments in the game. I just don't get.
I just want in-client tournaments that I can queue up for ladder and then play a best of 5 on ladder and just grind that way. That would be the most enjoyable change for me by far.
Yeah. You can probably like push it enough that they will eventually do it.
They're never gonna do it. You know how much work. They're making so much money with the way that it is right now that they just don't.
Well, I mean,
they don't want you to feel bad for losing, I guess.
Well, this kind of leads to, again, like, so what we're talking about, so a lot of this conversation has a lot to do with Legend. And Legend is actually a very small percentage of all of the Hearthstone players. I mean, in some ways, everything that's not Legend is the casual ladder right now. And I think the casual ladder right now, the way it functions is fine. The only thing I would say about the casual ladder is I wish the seasons were longer. That's the only thing, because like the people that do, at least for the casual ladder, not so much for like.
Well,
it's
no,
a
dude,
different
'cause if
problem.
the
for
legend
pro
I was
guys
ladders.
gonna say
grown
the
up,
season's
yeah,
long right now.
It's
Yeah,
that's because you
fucking
have nothing to
long.
do right now, you know. So it's like the legend folks literally have the pro players have nothing to do until like the last few days. But for
Yeah.
the casual player, I mean, there are a lot of people that just grind and like, you know, when they actually make it to legend, that is their end game. You know what I mean? Like just getting there. And a lot of people, they just make it and they just get to enjoy it for like a day, you know, a week, I don't know, whatever it is, and then they have to do it again, and they don't even know if they can do it again. You know what I mean? So it's like two different things, and I almost think that the ladder should be separated in some way, and maybe
Well,
that
it's already
tournament ladder is
separated
what
by
you're talking
default,
about.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like
it
once
is,
you have the
it is,
tournament
but
mode in, it's by default just like separated. And the thing is, even right now, like if all the legend players start at rank 5 by default, they can basically like separate the competitive ladder from like the good players will already be moved all the way up,
Yeah.
and the people who are climbing from all the way down. Like basically, it'll mean that between rank 20 to rank 5, it's casual stone and just you have fun. And then once you hit 5, you better prepare for the grind. But the grind doesn't start at like 17, where suddenly, hey, I'm facing Control Warrior with golden fucking everything, and I'm playing my like casual zoo list with like spreading darkness and Cthulhu at the top. And you're just like, what the fuck's going on? Why am I facing off against these highly competitive players? Well, that's because they start so much lower.
Yeah, it's
so
actually
just
a
maybe
bad
increasing
experience.
That bumping,
it's a bad
terrible,
experience
dude.
for
It's
the
fucking
casual
awful.
players too. Like early
They
on.
just
Sure
get,
it is.
So
they just get smashed.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
dude.
like it's not
You
good
should
for
read the
anybody.
forums. No, man, the forums, dude. The official Hearthstone forums, the rage threads on this place are just pure beauty. It's
Pure
innocent,
beauty?
scattered,
What?
and turned inwards into like the most vicious rage, man. The guy's like, okay,
Oh my
I thought
God.
Hearthstone was a good game, but then insert like tirade about all the like pay to win. It's like the old Doctor Move argument again.
Yeah. That's
It's not really the case though. Like it isn't the case, but when they're a casual player facing off against a Control Warrior at rank 15, they feel like they're getting cheated out of something, even though they're really not.
Yeah. So in general, what we're saying, nobody's having a great time with this early season
I don't know
experience.
why
So just
they
change
chose
it.
why, I don't know why they chose like setting us back to rank 16 as the cutoff. Like
I don't.
whose decision was that? That's just like absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like
I agree. Well, why don't we move on? We spent a good amount of time on it, but hopefully there's some suggestions. Hopefully some of the Blizzard people are watching, and I don't know, maybe some of those things will resonate with them. But I'm sure this subject will come up again once there's any kind of news on some ladder things being discussed by Ben or whatnot. We'll be talking about it again on Value Town. So don't worry, this conversation's not over, at least on the show. Okay, well, why don't we do our kind of just real quick, just some fun decks to talk about some decks that we've seen that have been interesting. And before I do that, I just want to give a shout out to some of our patrons that support Value Town. We do have a Patreon for it, so if you guys enjoy the show, want to help make the show better, you can go to patreon.com/ValueTown, and just pledge there and take a look at some of the rewards. But I do want to just kind of go through some patrons every single week. Dustin DeMar, Dan Zimborski, Gray DeRoche, Eric Cobb, Vincent Gobel, Ariel Tabak, Michael Lucy, thanks so much for supporting the show. And then on iTunes, I want to give a shout out to Felonious Monk for the 5-star review. That helps the show a great deal too. So if you guys, I know a lot of people listen to the show on audio. If you guys want to support the show, just definitely leave a feedback and a 5-star review, and really, really appreciate it. Okay, let's take a look at some decks. Just some fun decks to look at. I decided to endeavor in that N'Zoth Yogg. the N'Zoth Yogg archetype that we were talking about last week with Jackie, and I came in with something like this. This is definitely different than his, because he had a bunch of things like ball of spiders and very greedy things that I just can't see how you win with stuff like that with a deck like this. But the general concept is it's a Yogg Reno and it's a N'Zoth deck, and Reno just healing for Hunter is obviously the only way to heal for Hunter for the most part to actually have some kind of impact. And then N'Zoth, there's just Hunter cards that just have Death Rattle, so N'Zoth makes a lot of sense if you're playing control. And Yogg is just game saving at times, just like kind of a miracle kind of thing.
Even if it casts like a few spells, it doesn't have to cast that many even. Just like 5 spells, you're good to go. In that list at least. Yeah.
So this deck, I mean, it's worked really well against Vu. It's been probably not very successful against any of the warriors or tempo warrior particularly. But it's okay against shaman. It's definitely okay. There's not a ton of draw in this deck, so that's been one of the big issues. And that's the thing with hunter, right? It's like it's hard to heal. It's hard to draw cards. There's all these like problems that are tough to solve with hunter, and but it's a lot of fun though. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this deck? I was curious from.
Finley. Why are we not putting Finley?
Yeah, Finley. Yeah. I've been thinking about that too. Yeah, I probably should put that in. It's just there's so many good cards, man. There's like so many good cards to play here.
Scarab.
I don't want to have to be the guy that has to say this because, Firebat's my bro. But I feel like Firebat should be taken out over Finley, you know?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Like it's... I'm taking myself out of your deck, but...
taking yourself.
It's better than taking your deck out of...
you have Death Rattle.
Yeah, it's Death Rattle, but, you don't care.
You don't really care.
It honestly just makes the brawl better against you, you know? So it hurts at the end of the day, so... I think Finley over that would be a little bit better, and I think you could maybe even squeeze in an Acolyte of Pain somewhere to help with that draw problem.
With the Wild Pyro, it can do some cool stuff as well. There's a Dread Scale as well, which works with it. So yeah, you've got some, you can even on the hunt your own Acolyte at time. Yeah. It happens. You'll find spots for it.
So I think Acolyte might be a good card to include as well.
God, it just seems so slow though. It just feels so slow, and then the end of it is tough because as long as I draw Reno, if I get the games I get Reno, then it's like it's great.
You know what? Here's a card you have to put in that you haven't. That's Polluted Hoarder. It looks like complete trash, but
there's no way that card's good.
No, it's not a good card. But if he's struggling for card draw in this list, if he doesn't want to put in the Acolyte.
I would say put in Loot Order over putting Polluted Hoarder. Polluted Hoarder's garbage.
Like Firebat for Finley. And
Firebat for Finley for sure. I don't like the Unleash the Hounds that much. It doesn't synergize great with Wild Pyromancer.
We got Power Shot already, so you could as well.
Yeah, we already have Power Shot.
Yeah.
Put in the Acolyte there.
Just more for Houndmaster, I guess, but yeah, that's true.
We just don't have a lot of 2-drops.
What about we cut Houndmaster? Like, how many beasts do you have once you cut the fucking Firebat? And
yeah, Houndmaster should probably go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there should definitely be a loot order. Just you don't have any 2s, right? You need card draw, you don't have any 2s.
Right? Like, I literally have barely any taunt in this deck.
Well, you got Infested Tauren, and
you got Reno,
and I've got an Animal Companion, 大and it's
okay, put in Chill Maw put in the Shirt Drake and a Chill Maw. There you go, you're good to go.
You
got the Drake already, dude.
Chill Maw's terrible.
Dude, he's got.
I have put Chill Maw in a few of them,
dude.
just for Nazoth to generate taunts, just to save. But not in this deck. I haven't done it in this deck for sure.
Okay.
The best deck for Chillma is the Shaman.
Shaman one.
Dude. Shaman. Yeah. You get the Chillma down, then you Ancestral Spirit it, so it comes back to life when it dies. And then they kill it twice, and then you play Nazoth and get 2 Chillmas. Yeah. You just have a never-ending
Then they kill one, which damages the other, which then kills the other.
Okay. No, you don't run any dragons. You don't run any dragons to avoid that problem.
So you cut Ysera out of that deck, I see.
Oh, yeah, you don't run Ysera.
No, you don't run
double Faceless, double Ancestral Spirit.
Oh, you ended up adding the Faceless after all.
We discussed
that a while back, dude.
Baby.
Yeah, we discussed it. Yeah. So I put in the Facelesses. Me and Purple were able to get to top 10 with that at some point earlier on.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Faceless.
Oh, you can get the things. Oh, nice.
Yeah, you cut Ysera, you go Facelesses.
Yeah, you get the things from below down to 0, and then you go things from below Ancestral Spirit. Faceless it. It's 20/20 stats for 7 mana with Taunt.
I've done that in my experiments with my Crusher Shaman too. Yeah, it is crazy ridiculous. Cydonia, you've been quiet. What do you think about this deck? Is it just crazy bad or what? What do you think?
I just keep seeing the Infested Tauren and wondering about it because
oh man,
how do I run into Nazoth if I don't even have Infested Tauren?
It's just the worst taunt. It's they made it as bad as they could possibly make it, and people still play it. I just don't understand that.
Yeah,
do you like it? Has it been good?
I mean, it just functions as a taunt because I feel like a lot of times when you're in a situation where you're playing a Nazoth deck, you're being tempoed down, and that Nazoth play almost has to stop what's on board for you to survive and you to win, right? The following turn, or just at least flip the board. And so, I mean, that's why I even add Chillmaw at times in Zod decks, just so I at least have some kind of taunt whenever I make that play. Otherwise, it's just okay, I get my Savannah Highmans and my Savannas and things like that and my Infested Wolves, but I still die to whatever's on the board, right? So that's mainly the reason. When you're not playing Paladin, you don't have Tyrion, it's everything else is kind of rough,
that's
not
true.
having taunt.
Yeah, but if you just cut the cards that aren't great standalone and then put that in like good standalone cards, you might be less behind when you get to that N'Zoth
True.
turn.
Yeah, that's true.
You can actually play it. Because if you get Sylvanas or Highmane or even Infested Wolf back from
Infested Wolf,
N'Zoth,
yeah.
any of those three, I think you're fine if you've been kind of consistent on board with pressure against them. So if you're able to just get rid of Houndmaster, get rid of Infested Tauren, and replace them all with like better value minions, have a stronger curve going into it, be less behind, any of those coming back into the game.
Okay. Like I said, like if I have Reno, it's like a completely different game. It's just like, oh yeah, I have enough time to do N'Zoth without any kind of taunt or anything. But without it, it's just like I feel like there needed to be some cards taken, just put in the deck to prevent that from happening. But I see your point though. Just better cards just generally will make it less likely to happen. Okay, well that's that deck. Another deck I wanted to just maybe bring up was the Enrage Warrior deck, which I was talking to Cydonia about this deck a little bit. This was just a deck that I pulled off of Hearthstone and was somebody got to Legend with, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's obviously a Yogg. It's a worse version of just tempo decks or even just mostly just tempo warrior, but it does have some interesting elements where the end game is definitely interesting, and it's more of an enraged combo type of ending versus say like a patron warrior, or say like just your typical tempo deck. And of course it has Yogg. Yogg is just more, again, just from one of those miracle wins or just fun and whatnot. But what do you guys think of it? Axe Flingers, Girabashi Berserkers, any thoughts?
Yeah, they will not have a fun time against decks running 2 Kodos. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
Oh my
every
God,
Kodo's
yeah.
gonna crap on you. But the thing is, like with Paladin out of the way,
Yeah.
and Hunter is like opting to run like the one copy of it. If they do, some people just don't even anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean the Gurabashi is a big surprise to me. I'm just like, holy crap.
I think over X-Flinger, you could maybe find more success running the 3/5 Enrage card. It also fits the theme.
Yeah.
The amount,
If you just try to maintain the theme a little bit with the suggestions. I think the 3/5 Enrage guy that enrages for +1 attack would be a little bit better than X-Flinger, just because you're not a face deck.
Yeah,
Like
that's
you're
right.
definitely more of a board centric. Like your curve is very solid. You got just tons of on curve things. So
It's mid, yeah. It's
I
mid-range,
mean,
man.
actually,
good.
lets you get wins from hand though, which the other one doesn't, right? Like you can get some really funky wins with Axe Flinger.
how much damage do you expect this X-Flinger to do? Like you
So,
get
I mean, if
Pyroblast
you
people
go
with
to
X-Flinger?
Whirlwind, like you go Axe Flinger, let's say Ghoul Whirlwind plus a
gosh.
Blood Taker on it, like that's on its own
Alright.
already like 6 damage to
Alright.
face, which Warrior doesn't have. So
We already got Yogg in the deck to accomplish those kind of dreams.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it
I
does have
see.
only one card, so
I see. You don't believe in the Axe Flinger. I get it. I get it.
Axe
It's
Flinger is
just-
just fun. Like,
Yeah.
It's a good tavern brawl card.
It's a good tavern brawl card. Wow, yeah. Yeah.
The dream.
Girabashi though, man. Yeah, definitely have had many bouts with Girabashi trying to get that thing to work.
I mean, I feel like Gurabashi and Axe Flinger work the exact same way, right? Which is they both let you make those funky dreams, as you allude to. So like
Where's
they
the
both
bouncing
end up
blade,
just
man?
snowballing. Yeah, if there was, I think you'd be able to play it in this deck. Though, funny enough, like that's a crazy part.
have you ever played X-Flinger OTK Warrior?
Dude, I have
Just,
so many times. It's the dream.
Rampages and bouncing blades?
Oh my god. It's nuts.
That I
dude.
have.
It's totally nuts. A lot of fun. That deck's a lot of fun too. Anyways, just take a look at it, guys. I think it's just good sometimes just to take a look at, different variations of things. You're just enraged, right? Like sometimes these type of archetypes are just like 1 or 2 cards away from actually being something. So it's good to at least take a look at different things. Okay, well that's going to be it, guys, for at least the just deck talk or whatever. And we're going to do some Q&A now. I don't think anybody's tweeted any. So, oh, here we go. Somebody actually did tweet something. T Jefferson, and if you guys want to actually, by the way, ask your questions, tweet them to @ChanManV or @ValueTownGG, and I'll take those. If not, just type them in the Twitch chat. And Noxious, you mind looking at Twitch chat and seeing if you see any great ones as I read this one? Skipped Leg Day asks, any of you guys playing Wild? If so, what decks are you using that are fun? If not, why not? That's a good question.
I've played a bunch of Wild. Don't ask me why, but N'Zoth Priest
Holy
is
shit,
by
N'Zoth
far
Priest.
one of the best.
Yes,
It's absolutely
for sure.
insane. You have all the defensive mechanisms, and then
Light
of
Bomb.
just being Priest. You got like Light Bomb, you got Alkanite Circle, you have you're just good Death Rattle minions as well, and then you always win against control because you have double Entomb and Enzoth to bring back the world, and
Yeah.
you can't lose against control. You can't lose against aggro.
You
Went
can't
something
lose.
like 55-0 with N'Zoth Priest. It's really good and
ridiculous.
wild.
And I told you
Yeah,
about that last time on the show, right, ChanManV? I
Yeah.
was like, it's so stupid. Like the wild is just, it's either secret pallies that let you use Eater of Secrets and still fuck you up with Keeper of Voldemort, or it's like priest just N'Zothing. There's like nothing else than this. That's it. And yeah, I mean, like I can't wait for Entomb to get rotated out of standards so priest can finally be given good cards, because as long as that shit's around, like this is, you can't give this class anything.
I feel like you can still give something, but
sure, give him something and see how well that goes. Like that card is like Light Bomb 2.0.
In Wild, it's ridiculous.
environment.
And Cydonia, have you played any? I actually have a story with Wild that I'll tell in a second. But Cydonia, you played any Wild?
I've played the Rogue deck, Enzoth Rogue.
Oh,
That is actually pretty fun as well, because you can put pretty much any card into it. Like you can do a Reno variant, or you can just do like the more consistent one with Raptor and Egg and all the cards you don't want to see anymore.
It's ridiculous. It's crazy good. Yeah.
And you can work on your Golden Rogue without having to play Miracle into Shaman, so that's nice.
Oh, that's definitely true. So I hosted a fireside gathering this past weekend, and we always do Wild tournaments at the just Swiss. Actually, this is the first time we did a Swiss tournament, but we did Wild this past weekend, and so I wasn't prepared, so I just kind of threw some together, and then after losing the first round, then I started to adapt. But Eater of Secrets, yes, everybody runs Eater of Secrets in every one of their decks.
But it doesn't matter. It's bad.
It's really bad.
It doesn't win. It's useless, dude.
Well, but people run it just because of Secret Paladin, right? But it
loses against.
It doesn't
them.
stop. Yes,
Yeah.
I know. It doesn't
Not
stop.
good against.
Yeah. But people, they run it though. And then I was playing Wild and on ladder 2, and people run it. I don't know why. But anyways, so that one thing, Priest, like you said, was just ridiculous. Dude, Zoo, I'm just seeing all the eggs and all the Death Rattle minions again. I'm just like, oh, shit, dude. I forgot how powerful Zoo was, even though it's powerful now. It was dumb good before. So, those are the two decks that really stood out to me. I thought Hunter would be good, just with just still with Mad Scientist and things, and then I forgot. I was just like, oh yeah, Hunter sucked when all these cards were still back in the game. So the Priest was ridiculous. Shifting Shade, just stealing quality cards from your opponent, and you're removing board and getting all those quality cards back from N'Zoth. It's disgustingly good. So yeah, the winner nonetheless. They were running a Priest deck. Actually, Strelzik won it. It was a Priest deck, and I forget what his second deck was.
What Priest?
No, it can't be both Priests. It's just one. It was a Priest. It was best of 3, so you had to bring 2 decks.
Okay.
I can't remember. I think it was the Tempo Mage. That's what it was. Tempo Mage was. I don't know how he went with that. That's kind of crazy. But yeah. So anyways, Wild is fun. Wild is fun, but those decks are super strong. But I would advise just trying it out at least, and trying to come up with something cool.
Yeah, it's tougher though, like for people who don't have cards, right? Because you don't want to go back and start crafting light bombs. You're just like, nope. And then you kind of need them if you want to be playing those, insane decks.
You definitely realize how much that class depends on light bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just and still even right now. it's wishing that light bomb.
But it just doesn't have it.
Yeah.
It sucks, right? It just doesn't have access to it, but it still depends on it.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Samuel Hendrickson asks, when I have Fandral and Azure on the board, why does my Wrath do 5 and not 6?
Yeah, because Fandral combines the effects of the choose ones.
Yeah.
So it combines the two it combines them both, and then you get the spell power of them both. So it just deals 4. It deals 3 and 1 put together to make it 4. And spell power gives +1, so it's 5.
That's right. Yeah.
But you can play Evolved Kobold if you really want to get 6.
That's true.
Okay.
Let's see. Actually, okay. So Skip actually asked another question too. What do you guys think of Purple and Amnesiac's N'Zoth Shaman? Didn't we just talk about this? Let me see.
Well, the question
this is a different
like,
one.
can you refine?
That's my N'Zoth Shaman
Oh,
that I gave
look
to
at this,
Purple.
man.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a dispute
Oh my
as to whose it
gosh.
is.
Well, I think
I made it with Purple right there. We were on that TV in the living room chilling because he's living with me now, and he just the credit for my tag.
Flagged,
bad,
man. Copyright flagged right there, man.
So what about
These guys-
Amnesia's Fire Purple Ancestral Shaman? It's like how
All right,
do you
let's
think
take a
you
look
could
at this.
technically refine that deck to make it tier 1, or is it forever gonna
See,
be
this
the
was-
only Shaman deck not in tier 1?
See, this is my shit right here, dude. I like this stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man,
As
It's
long as you
good.
play like the Manatide, your healing wave is like almost always 14 as well. So it has like tons of healing
Yeah,
actually.
'cause
you got- you
28
start
points.
five.
oh, I got
right?
you. I got you. Yeah. How is
Yeah.
how has Halaziel been for you? Because I just can't
that
get
deck,
that
no.
card to like be worth the shit for me.
It's pretty solid. And some of the
Stormcrack
matchups that you
makes-
don't need healing, you just throw it out there. You have Emperor Thorsan, which can allow kind of good things to happen with it as well. And sometimes in the grindy control matchups, you just need to Halaziel Elemental Destruction and heal to full health. It's like Reno Jackson in
Yeah.
a deck that runs all 2-0s. So it hasn't been bad by any means.
All
for sure.
12 Shaman class cards.
Yeah.
Almost like
My
And then,
issue with Halaziel was I was running into obviously a lot of decks that not like Zoo decks obviously. I mean it's amazing against Zoo, but against like Cthulhu decks or decks that just put 1 or 2 minions at a time, and I'm kind of keeping up with it, right? So a lot of times I'd throw Halaziel down and I would just get
do you
just
play
damage to 2 of them.
Stormcracks? That's my question, because like if you don't
I
play
don't play
Stormcrack,
Stormcracks.
you will lose to those really hard. Like those decks you're alluding to,
Yeah.
because you need that 4 health spot, even 5 sometimes with spell damage increase. Like Stormcrack basically carries that deck through the matchups where it usually struggles with. At least
God,
that's what
that
I
card.
found.
Oh man, really?
So,
I
it's
got
so good. It's really good. It's really fun.
At worst case, Halaziel is like a Druid of the Claw. It's a 4/6 with pseudo taunt. They
True,
kind of have
yeah.
to kill it because otherwise, your healing starts adding up with things. And then sometimes if you're like really low against a Cthulhu deck that doesn't have too many minions and you're afraid Cthulhu's going to come out and kill you, you can always like Halaziel Totem Elemental Destruction and then Lava Shock the following turn to unoverload.
Yeah.
So you're able to then get like if they have 1 minion out, for example, you get 15 heal right there. So
Yeah. Oh, this deck looks fun, dude. I'm gonna have to. I'm definitely gonna have to try this out because my deck's actually pretty close to this. It just doesn't have N'Zoth.
It's very.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like it's
It's-
very different because like that Stormcrack and that
Yeah.
N'Zoth.
just
theme
be
just makes
very wary of Sylvanas.
Yep.
You're gonna be
Yes.
you're gonna be
Yep.
jumping for joy with your Karen Bloodhoof, and then you'll just Ancestral Spirited,
slap.
and then they'll like Sylvanas Shield Slap, and then you'll just flip your
Like
table
so.
over.
Flip your
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Keep
So
a hex.
you just
Keep
have
a
to
hex
be
just in case.
very afraid of that. So just make sure they don't have any armor, so they can't Sylvanas take your thing when you go all in. And then against Control Warrior, obviously try and focus on getting Ancestral Spirit to go off on the Karen Bloodhoof, so that when your N'Zoth brings back multiple Karens,
Yeah.
so they'll have to brawl twice, and you'll still have things left over. And try not to draw too many cards against Control Warrior
So-
because you do need to kind of go to fatigue.
Generally speaking, I say like this deck can be refined to like be a contender, like on ladder, but in
contender.
tournament settings, I'm not so sure.
Well,
I mean,
it's like the
of course,
problem
I mean,
is
that's like okay.
It's a gimmick you know about, right? So it can't be like
Yeah.
tier
Well, I
one you're
mean,
looking
you
for.
have to not play the other shaman to play this shaman, which is
that too.
no,
Yeah.
it's not gonna happen, right? It's
Yeah. The hybrid aggro shaman, well, I guess it's just called aggro shaman now, but the shaman with things from below is just absolutely insane. I have like 71% win rate in like 400 games with that deck. It's
Sounds
just
balanced to me.
every ladder meta that has happened so far, that deck's always been like, yep, pretty good. So it's just
Easy.
Since its
it-
inception,
easy.
that's true. Yeah.
it just seems like unreasonable to me not to bring aggro shaman to every single tournament.
We have a question from Mimisian in the chat. It says Ben Bros said that there might be a viable priest archetype that hasn't been discovered yet.
yeah, I was gonna
Do you
mention
believe
that too.
so? So
Yeah.
he alluded to there
They know
being-
something that we don't know.
Yeah, I
basically.
mean, like I'm guessing it's confused. That's the only card I could see, or like
confused,
I get
really? Like a
Convert,
combo, like a big
confused,
old combo, confused.
some shit we
deck?
don't expect that they think could do well.
Well,
I just can't keep minions on the board. I mean, it's
I don't know.
Yeah, like how do you?
they told me, remember when Next Ramus came out and they said Avenge
Fucking-
was the best card in Next Ramus?
yeah. And
That
Undertaker
didn't get
came out.
played at all
Yep.
from Next Ramus. Undertaker was in that set. So I don't know. They may just be kind of like pulling your leg because
Dude.
they have been kind of incorrect in the past.
I just have to say Hemet Nesingwary because Great Beast deck. The moment you remember that quote from Blizzard, you can disregard the fact that there's like a lurking deck we don't know about.
Yeah,
Like, please just disregard the fact that there might be like there's nothing. There's no priest deck. There's nothing.
I'm trying to think of what it would. I mean,
abandon hope. Abandon
I
it.
know me and you, Noxious,
Stop.
have like we definitely play a lot of priests and
Yeah.
try dumb shit sometimes. just
Yeah,
to-
we have tried
just to-
some really wonky shit.
And
but
I
it's
Firebat
just-
too, I'm sure. Like in Cydonia, I don't know. Have you played much priest? Have you tried
Yeah.
crazy
I've
stuff?
given up on priest.
You give it up on priest. He's,
You ever
he's
given
one of
up
the
on
smart ones.
priest?
Man.
I like that shit.
He's one of the smart ones. But yeah, I've tried all kinds of things, man. Like, so I still haven't quite nailed it. I mean, you can all, every once in a while come up with a confused thing, like face listing things and confusing or just faceless with even just whatever type of combo-y inner fire type of things too. But the one card that I'm surprised that nobody's come up with even a fun deck for is the is it Scaling Dragon or the one that
Scale
actually
Dragon,
Scale
yeah.
Dragon, yeah, Scale Dragon that doubles all the time. I still haven't seen anybody do anything with that. Like
Priest is not in the meta, so you don't get Cabal Shadow Priest. So I guess you could play it.
yes, that's true. Unfortunately, Kodo is though. But you can get you can get yourself out of that really quickly though.
Yeah, you give it like a Flame Tongue next to it, so
Yeah,
you can play
or-
Shaman now with Scale Dragon on top of all the other stuff.
Or just like because like Scale Dragon inner fire
In a rage.
inner rage. No, it's not inner rage. Is there inner rage? Yeah, inner rage.
Anything
God, I'll
really.
keep thinking. I'm getting them all mixed up after a while.
Inner Fire is the one you're thinking about. That makes it 8 and then 16 on the following.
Yeah,
turn.
exactly. That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Like it's the combo, right?
And-
Yeah.
Then they just execute it.
Yep.
Yeah. Why you
So,
gotta be such a
nice
downer?
job
How can
designing an entire
Well, I know,
deck
We can
around
have
this.
two of them though. We can have two.
Oh, the world will
They have
conceal.
two executes.
I believe.
Dude. So exactly, priest. I don't
I mean,
know
dude,
what else
it's
we
not
could do.
that people
man.
haven't
It's
tried,
like-
honestly. So it's one of
And
those.
we
things
just can't
like,
keep minions on the board. It's like I don't like.
So
The problem
here's
is
the thing,
Northshire
it's-
Cleric is so contested. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
it's difficult to cycle with Northshire Cleric, and that priest is successful when they're able to do it. But everyone's got 3/2s on one, so you can never play it on
Yeah.
one. If you hold it off the mulligan, you're less likely to find things to remove and play your curve, and then you're forced to kind of AOE at that state, and you're just waiting for this draw combo that if it comes, you can sometimes win. If it never comes, you lose, and the odds of it coming are less than the odds of it not coming. So then you have a negative win rate.
Yeah, and then the combo selections. I mean, I know they like with Embrace of Shadow and stuff. They are leading towards maybe a Prophet Valen type of combo, with Emperor Thorazan or something. But I just can't. It's hard to draw your entire deck with Priest, and B, you just have to survive given all these tempo decks. It's
I mean, like
Hard.
I'm being very categorical
hard.
about there's no deck out there because we keep being surprised by that random deck coming out. Like
Yeah.
what I think could at some point work is something not revolving around, but including cards like Spawn of Shadows. Like you're playing the tempo cards
Yeah.
and you're hoping to get on board.
Yeah, you can't play Spawn of Shadows.
Well,
You
that's
don't have 1-drops to fight for the board in your
That's
deck.
exactly
right,
it.
that's
The
right.
issue is your 1 to 3
Your
turns are
2-drops
just
suck.
dead. Yeah, you're fucked. Like you're
Like
you're
you
fucked
play
by
a
that point.
1/2, and they're just like, okay, free trade.
Yeah, they don't care at all.
Got
Like,
'em.
dude, I've tried like everything ranging from injured Valdir to get like a little early lead. Who knows?
I tried
Even
that
when
too,
You circle
yes,
it. Like
yes,
when you
yes,
go
dude, I
like
tried that
Valdir,
too.
coin Valdir, like circle, they
Yeah.
still win. Like it doesn't matter
Yeah, your 1-drops suck.
because you got
If
nothing.
you gave Priest another couple circles, maybe he could actually pull some things off. But yeah, it's like
Yeah.
either I choose to like buff these guys that give me a slight advantage and give up my full board clear later, or at least my mid-range board clear later, or
Well, it's
it's like
interesting
I have to
because
do one of
yesterday
those.
I
It's like
Like
oh,
I was
gosh.
working on a custom card creation episode yesterday for the YouTube channel, and like one of the cards that I came up with was a 2-drop that made it so your minions dealt attack equal to their health instead of their attack. So you could actually make them, like it's kind of a cornerstone of your priest archetype, and you don't get punished for running shit like tournament medic.
right.
Instead, you can still do something with it, so you don't rely on inner fire gimmicks or confuse where they suddenly have low health. But it's like we're missing. Like if they want to emphasize the whole inner fire shenanigan, then they have to really support it more because I feel like we're missing a lot of it to make priest even remotely able to burst.
And the only deck I've seen with Priest lately, I have a friend who really likes to play Priest, and he always makes these really weird decks. Like, he always wanted to test with me for the tournament, and he's like, do I play my lineup or a real lineup? Because his lineups
Yeah.
were always like Reno, Katun, Priest, and the other decks in that vein. But he convinced me to try his Priest on ladder this week, and it didn't even seem so bad. But after like 3 games, he left, and I stopped playing it. So.
I mean,
But he thinks it's really good. So if I ever get it to work, I'm gonna let you guys know.
Oh,
Okay,
you do
cool.
that. I
Yeah.
like the idea. There's another question before I guess we kind of ease towards the end there. Opinions on Yogg in competitive environment.
Yeah,
Is
that's
it
a good one.
healthy?
Yeah, what do you guys think?
Firebat, Cydonia. What do you guys?
I don't like Yogg existing.
Okay.
Wow.
Crummy that it exists. It causes
Ouch.
the big downside to Yogg existing. Like the upside is cool. You can build your deck around it, and then that requires skill. And getting to the point where Yogg influences the game maybe requires skill. But there's a lot of instances where you can play Yogg, and everything that happened in that game up to that point
Doesn't-
becomes irrelevant.
Yeah.
And that's mind-boggling to me. It's like, all right, you play in this like 20-turn game, and you get down to the point where you can finally play Yogg after 20 turns, and then you play it, and nothing else matters from that point. Like, there's things that Yogg can do that you cannot prepare for, and that's not like as low of a percent as you think.
Yeah.
The fact that Yogg can just instant win the game and make nothing else matter that game. Like, if it happened 1 out of 10 times or 1 out of 20 times, like,
wish, no.
sure,
Yeah.
that's fine. But it's like, I'd say it's like, like 30% of the time, you're going to get these Yogg turns that are very, very difficult for your opponent to stop, which is kind of ridiculous.
I mean,
Yeah, I think,
it's proven to be
go ahead.
good for you. Then I mean, it's. I think everybody will agree that Yogg plays if you have like, say you have a disadvantage. I mean, the board is at a disadvantage for you. A Yogg play more like, I don't know exactly how much more, but definitely more so than not. It will always be good. Will be good for you. And I think just even statistically, I think it's proven that even just all the spells that you can possibly get, I think there are more that are good for you in that situation than bad for you. So using it as a get out of jail free card, I mean, you could literally just put a Yogg deck into some, into any deck that has like 10 spells, and potentially, get out of a losing situation, like 100% losing situation. And
Yogg Priest.
pretty
Maybe
crazy.
that's the deck. Jeez,
Maybe
are
that's
we
the deck
dumb?
with Priest. That's it.
Are we dumb?
That's it.
That's what
TJ
it is.
played Yogg Zoo to like top 10
Yeah.
legend.
With Spreading
I believe it.
Madness in it, guys. With
Spreading Madness, Bane of Doom, Yogg Zoo.
Yep.
I played the deck. I don't know how you won with it. I literally don't.
Yogg did.
Yogg must have did a lot of work because
Spreading Madness did.
You have to never draw Spreading Madness, because every time you draw it, you're gonna lose. It's gonna go in your face.
I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
Zoo, for
so
Christ's sake. I mean,
Yeah.
I
you're
don't know
be
what the
killing
real
your
talk.
own
Like,
minions.
fuck off. That card sucks, guys.
Like,
Yeah.
if you never draw it, I see how you can claim with the deck. But
Okay, I like that. That's good. So Renounced Darkness Warlock is what you're saying we should be playing.
Oh my god.
like
With Spreading Madness.
we
Firebat,
really-
I know you tried,
don't know.
right? You tried Renounce, right? Have you solved
Yeah, I
the
played
Renounce?
Renounce
Have
before.
you solved the Renounce problem? The magical Renounce problem.
I've completely solved it. The card's bad.
The card's bad. Dang it, man! I was hoping for something better than that, but all right, yeah. So Yogg, it's definitely fun, but yeah, competitive wise, I think it's definitely a scary thing, and it's too bad because it's definitely exciting from a casting standpoint, but from the standpoint of just fairness and skill or whatnot, it doesn't feel right. Yeah.
As a caster, honestly, you can't cast the cards, so it doesn't really matter. Like it's
like yeah.
guys, wait, like Yogg's gonna be coming out soon, and then it's played, and then it's like you can't commentate what's going on, or at least not very much. And it's one of those
It's always
things where, like,
depressing.
Right.
when- like I've casted games before, and then Yogg's came out, and then I was casting the entire game, talking about the skill of the players, making sure I
And then
talk up the
boom.
game and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I'm like, yeah, this is making all the decisions. He set himself up in a great spot. He's probably like 90% to win the game, and then oh no, the opponent top decks Yogg, and then they play Yogg, and then it's just like, well,
The
now
guy
he
has,
loses.
seventh tag, the guy like lay on hands himself exactly where he needs to be. Full healing wave, gets embraced the shadow healing wave, the
Colosseum.
opponent in the face for 14. Like just like
Yeah.
full retard. I mean, it's what the card is meant to do. The only issue is like when I rated the old gods at first, I put N'Zoth at the top and Yogg as second. And
Yeah.
looking back on it, I feel like I should be swapping them now. Like, because the problem with N'Zoth is you can play around N'Zoth. You can't play around Yogg. And
Yeah,
so
but-
at this point, it's like
Yog's not always
I don't
good
know
though. I mean, consistency. I still say Nazot's better than Yog. Like if you're ranking them,
Sure,
because Nazot's is
but
consistent. It's very.
it warped the meta to the point where it became worse. Whereas Yogg-Saron does not give you that opportunity. Like you can't make Yogg-Saron worse. You just get yogged. That's it. Like you just sit there
Get Yog.
and take
It's
it.
not
But
very
it's true.
fun or interactive.
It's true,
that's
though.
For sure.
It's not.
Like their whole motto of their balancing and stuff like that is fun and interactive, fun and interactive. We can't have this, we can't have that because that wouldn't be fun and interactive. And then they go ahead and print Yogg, which completely decides games
But
by
I'll
itself.
give you one thing though. Initially, when the card was announced, Ben Brode mentioned that they were thinking of adding Overload that Yogg played to give you the Overload. And even though it would be like a minor issue sometimes when you're losing a game, getting Overload on the following turn is the last of your problems. It's living right now. When he said that, a lot of us were kind of dumbfounded. Like, well, this card's probably going to be shit anyway, so who cares, right? And then as it turns out, the card's not shit. The math was run into like 60-ish% when you're so far behind, or 65 to get you out of a bad spot. And then all of a sudden, I feel like his argument stands a lot more. Seeing how powerful Yogg is, giving it a slight drawback might be okay.
Yeah, it might be okay. I don't know how much of a drawback it really is though, because
it's not that big.
There's not that many overload spells, and I mean, then does Lava Shock work too in the same way? So.
Do you just think it just feels worse to lose to Yogg, or is it that much better than the other 10 drops like Katoon and
I think it's better.
and Zod and all these other cards that you win when you draw them, like Mysterious Challenger and Reno and like these build-around cards that you win when you draw them, you lose when you don't draw them, and that's a direction they've been taking compared to before when it was a lot more like tempo decks with synergy like Mech Mage and Tempo Mage and like.
So you think like the whole build around one card and then you draw it, you choose like I feel like that's still sort of the case. Like tempo decks and mid range decks and aggro decks will have those very cheap cards in the early game that if they pick them up, they're just so much better off win rate wise.
The game's like that right now with all of the cards. Every deck has cards that if they draw on the specific turn and play them on curve, their win rate shoots up by a huge margin. I've been doing a lot of tracking my stats with TrackerBot and then plugging the API into plugins and different programs to look at like win rates when you draw specific cards and all that sort of thing. And there's just cards that are clearly multitudes better than other cards in the game. And like just having Totem Golem on 2, that's the classic one that everyone refers to, or Fiery War Axe on 2, another classic one, or Doomsayer on 2, all of those things that just skyrocket your win rate. And so if you can do that a bunch of games in a row, you're going to win games. And that's really depressing to me that there's so many cards that are like so much better on certain curves. We've had that in the past too with Piloted Shredder. If you play Piloted Shredder on 4, your win rate goes up through the roof. So
do you have some non-obvious examples like cards you were surprised
what's a surprising card?
Surprising card? Beckoner of Evil was the most surprising. Beckoner of Evil increasing your win rate on Warrior more than playing Fiery War X on 2.
Wow.
Interesting.
Seriously,
seems strange.
That does. That's surprising.
Any other ones?
No, most of them were pretty exciting. With Druid, it was kind of weird because the card that increased my win rate on turn 3 being played the most was Druid of the Claw, which the first time I saw that, it was kind of funny. It's like you have to innovate it out, right?
Yeah.
So. But yeah, everything else was kind of like what you'd expect. Like having Innervate in your starting hand increases your win rate more than having Wild Growth in your starting hand. Things like that, I guess, could be kind of shocking. And then Doomsayer on 2 in Control Warrior was only 53% to win the game. So like it didn't actually influence the game all that much to have Doomsayer on 2 in Control Warrior. It was kind of interesting.
All right. Well, that's cool. I mean, that's cool that you keep all the stats with it. What tool do you use for that?
TrackerBot.
Okay. Yeah, definitely try that out, guys. I have never used it before, so really curious because I'm just curious as to see what stats would show up for me too. But anyways, guys, we got to wrap. It's been almost 2 hours. I didn't think this show would actually run that long, but man, we just got talking. But that's awesome. That's what we want to do on this show. But Cydonia, first time on here. It's been a pleasure having you. Again, big congrats to you for winning this past weekend. Do you have any shout outs or anything you want to do before you take off?
Well, thanks for having me. It's really been great to be here, and I just want to shout out to like everyone that's reached out to me in the past few days to tell me they were rooting for me or they watched the games and enjoyed themselves. So I was overwhelmed with so many people reaching out to me, and that was really great. So shout out to you guys.
Yeah, awesome. And teams, guys. He's looking for a team. So
Teams.
you've got a season champion here. So definitely reach out to this guy. Firebat, always great having you, buddy. You're just like extended family at this point for our show.
Thanks.
And any shout outs you want to do?
Just a shout out to Cloud9 and my team. Send me places to compete and cast and stuff. So always appreciate that.
You got a stream and everything. You want to plug all that good stuff?
Oh yeah, sure. I upload YouTube videos at firebat.tv, so you can check that out, and I stream at twitch.tv/firebat, and then my Twitter is firebat, and everything else Firebat. So if you see Firebat somewhere, it's probably me. I appreciate it, all the support from everyone that's following me on all that stuff. Thanks, guys.
All right, Noxious.
Yeah, shout out to Complexity, and you can always follow me on Twitter, COL_Noxious, and Noxious HS on Twitch, if you want to watch it.
And check out his Megatorps workshop, man. Like the thing that he was doing yesterday.
That's fun. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Like
It's
the
a lot
card
of great
creation is
ideas.
really, really cool. Honestly, I love doing that stuff.
Yeah, it's for those of you who don't know what Megatorp is, it's basically a show where Noxious puts together cards, just concepts for cards, and some of them are really good. And it'd be nice if maybe Blizzard took a look at some of them too at times. But it's a cool concept at least. So definitely check it out. For me, big shout out to the three of you guys for coming on and doing the show with me. It was so fun today, and shout out to all the folks that watched. Were we hosted? I think we might have been hosted at one point. I just didn't see were we? Gosh, I totally missed it. If I did, thanks to whoever did host us. And I never look at Twitch chat while I'm doing the show, which is kind of bad in this particular regard. And big shout out to Tempo Storm for sponsoring the show, of course, and then their sponsors over here to the left, which is Twitch, G2A, and Curse. For those that are interested in the audios, we'll have the audios available in the next day or two. So keep an eye on that. YouTube will be available in the next, hour, 2 hours. You can find that at youtube.com/ChanManV. And my stream also is twitch.tv/ChanManV if you are interested in any of my other shows, my Overwatch show and MMA show. Actually, I'm doing that soon. And that's going to be it, though, this week. We're going to be back on our normal days, Wednesday. So this Thursday thing is just like a one-time thing. So tune in again, 4 p.m. Eastern next Wednesday for some more Hearthstone talk. So until then, for Cydonia, Firebat,